After a few years of being delayed, Morbius is finally getting released in theaters. Although I have no plans on seeing this movie, what does stand out to me are the writers behind it. Ironically, Burke Sharpless and Matt Sizemore previously wrote another vampire movie, and that was Dracula Untold. Originally titled Dracula Year Zero, it was featured on the 2006 Blacklist, and Universal bought the film rights in the late 2000s. After going through production purgatory, the movie was released in 2014, but under the title of Dracula Untold. I recently got my hands on a PDF of the script when it was called Dracula Year Zero. 2012 is when this draft of the script was written, which was about a year before the movie started filming. This video is gonna go over all the differences between this script and the movie that got made. There are gonna be spoilers on Dracula Untold, so keep this in mind. The movie was gonna begin with Vlad and his men stopping a pack of gypsies from dumping stolen silver coins, and doing so just in time before any of them can be dumped into the river. The reason why one of the gypsies named Shaglim did this was they had a dream that the silver would stop a dead man from rising from the river and killing people. Vlad then has this gypsy lashed for his crime until he sees damaged Turkish armor and weapons nearby and sees red mist coming from the mountain where it originated from. When Vlad goes back to his castle, Vlad talks to his wife Marina, who was described in the script of having raven hair. I've seen at least another movie where Sarah Gadon had dark hair and she could have pulled this off, but she looks good either way. Also, Vlad's son Anguirus was 6 in the script, but about several years older in the movie. Vlad was to hear the grievances of his people on a throne made of black limestone before celebrating Easter. It was also a moment in which Brother Lucan was introduced, and the wealthy landowners known as the Boyars were also introduced. Their leader was referred to as Simon the Wise in the script. This character is technically in the movie, but only has a fraction of screen time compared to the script. It was also during a play reenactment of the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ in which the Turkish soldiers barge in. In addition, one of the Turkish soldiers known as the emissaries were to kill a father who was trying to protect his son from being taken. Later that night, Vlad was to talk to his wife about the situation, and it was established that Vlad's wife was religious, but Vlad did not share his wife's faith, or at least was skeptical. When Vlad arrives at the camp of the Turks, he was accompanied by his friend Dumantru, and this is when he discovered why Muhammad referred to Vlad as Khazul Bey, which means Lord Impaler. He earned the name years ago when he was sent by the Sultan to ease unrest in Greece, where Vlad and a handful of other soldiers impaled 800 men, women, and children, while also doing the same to a Turkish vizier who had failed to keep the peace there. When Vlad was to give up his son and changes his mind, the script was not to show Vlad killing these men, but instead showing a close-up of Vlad's family closing their eyes and hearing Vlad killing these men. When Vlad goes up to Broken Tooth Mountain, he goes there initially not to have the power of whoever's inside, but rather to convince whoever it was to kill the Turks for him. Inside the cave, it was a temple that looked like ancient Roman architecture, but then a masked figure knocks out Vlad and hangs him upside down next to Turkish soldiers who are still alive. This man wearing a mask made of gold kills the other Turks to drink their blood. Before he can do so to Vlad, Vlad reads the names of other statues nearby and recognizes that this masked man happens to be the ancient Roman Emperor Caligula. Caligula then frees Vlad to listen to what he has to say, but Caligula can't leave his cave since he has been cursed by God to be inside it for many centuries. After removing his mask, Caligula's ugly face repulses Vlad, and Caligula attacks Vlad in anger. Vlad fights back with a sword, and figures out that silver can kill this monster when his silver ring hits Caligula's skin. As Vlad slowly decapitates Caligula with a silver necklace that his wife gave him, Caligula tells him they can have his powers if he drinks his blood. Vlad does so, and falls into the river below, fulfilling the dream that the gypsy had. Muhammad decides to attack Vlad's country after his men did not return with Vlad's son. Vlad wakes up from his fall and figures out that he now has supernatural powers. Vlad comes across a village nearby that was recently attacked by the Turks, and he fights a Turkish captain and a squad of Turkish soldiers that are still there. By accident, he hits them with a gust of wind, and as he kills them one by one, some of them try to hide inside a barn, and Vlad climbs the wall of the barn and makes his way inside to kill them. These were references to the book Dracula by Bram Stoker, in which Dracula could manipulate the weather and climb a wall like a lizard. Vlad then turns his attention to a woman in need, and after going inside a house, this woman turns out to be the witch Baba Yaga. Vlad asks for her to perform 3 wishes in an attempt to curb his curse with being a vampire. Although he gains the ability to hypnotize people and for his physical appearance to not look ghoulish as Caligula when he was a vampire, he also gains a weakness of being able to be killed if a wooden stake punctures his heart, and that all fruit and flowers will die if he gets close to them. It was also established that Vlad has 7 days to resist drinking blood, but in the movie, he only needs about 3 days to do so. When the Turks start laying siege to Vlad's castle, Vlad kills some of the men who are nearby General Ishmael, and Vlad hypnotizes this man to do his bidding. Vlad then makes his way back to the castle, rallies his men, and they charge to fight the Turks. The hypnotized Ishmael sabotages one of the Turkish cannons by firing a cannon at the other one to disable it, and Vlad uses his hypnotic powers to cause the opposing army to cower in fear. They all see the sight of a mountain in the distance turn into a giant demon bat monster that looks like Vlad with bat wings. Now when I read this, it reminded me of the Night on Bald Mountain sequence from Fantasia, which is ironic because the men who wrote this movie are currently attached to write a movie based on that movie's sequence. Vlad then convinces people that they must move and make their way to the monastery near the Borgo Pass, while also befriending a recently orphaned peasant kid named Mihai. As the gypsies leave, knowing that the supernatural threat is nearby, Mehmed arrives at the battlefield in which part of his army was defeated. He is taken aback by a few men that survive that are still terrified. A still hypnotized Ishmael then gives a message to Mehmed. Mehmed kills Ishmael shortly after, and Mehmed sends a squad of Janissaries to find where Vlad and his people are going. It was also revealed in this scene that Mehmed had agnostic views, thinking that whatever supernatural powers Vlad may now have, he can kill with his weapons. Meanwhile, back at the camp, Vlad almost succumbs to the thirst of blood by attacking his wife inside their tent, but then he hears the sound of his son's voice calling for his mother. Ashamed of what he has done, he reveals himself to be a vampire, and he tries to kill himself by cutting a hole in his tent to let sunlight burn him. But Marina saves her husband from doing so. To help her husband's thirst, Marina finds and kills a goat. She then drains it of blood and gives it to Vlad so he can drink. So it was established that he just had to resist drinking human blood, but animal blood was fine. When the squad of Janissaries attacked Vlad's people on their journey to the monastery, Vlad was to mangle one of the hands of the Janissaries named Bright Eyes before forcing him off the edge of the cliff. In both the script and in the movie, Bright Eyes survives this. Also when Dumanchu dies, he was to see Vlad display his supernatural abilities to realize what his prince had become before dying. At the monastery, Brother Lucian was to explain what type of monster was at Broken Tooth Mountain, and that the type of creature that was there was known as the Ichmu during the years of ancient Assyria. This revelation of a vampire-like creature was explained much sooner in the movie, but this revelation was supposed to be shown a lot later in the script. As Vlad has Dumanchu buried, he also attempts to train his people how to fight against an army, but when Vlad walks past some wildflowers that die when he gets near them, and Vlad dodging direct sunlight, Brother Lucian notices and follows Vlad into a smithy where weapons are being forged. After Brother Lucian cuts a hole in the area with a sword, Vlad lights on fire and the whole smithy goes up in flames. To save himself, Vlad summons some rats to feed on to heal himself. During this chaotic moment, Simon was to attempt to take control of Vlad's people and to try to kill this man with his other boyars. Simon and some of Vlad's people throw their torches at where Vlad is at and relight the smithy on fire. Vlad then escapes this by turning to a horde of black rats and hides within the shadows of the monastery. As this happens, Mehmed leaves his army to march to the monastery. Back at the monastery, Simon gets the idea to trade up Ingress as a bargaining chip for Mehmed, but then the sun sets and Vlad returns to kill Simon with impaling him with a pole through the gut. Also, Marina calms her husband down by speaking to him in the movie, but in the script, she just gives him a certain look to where Vlad becomes self-aware of not to go too far. Vlad then flies over to intercept the marching army to kill Mehmed himself, but the man has blended in with the army, and Vlad flies away empty-handed. Vlad then, to crucify Jesus Christ, pleads to him, but then speaks ill things when he hears no answer. Ingress then gives his father a piece of bread because he thinks his father is hungry, and Vlad eats the bread. At first, he does not have any issue with this, but later throws it up. Vlad then figures out that he can find Mehmed within the army by using a parchment that Mehmed signed with his blood. Vlad summons an army of bats to attack the Turkish army to cut them, and to expose their blood for Vlad to smell. As the Turks start to run away, Vlad has his men charge the invaders. After catching Mehmed's scent, Vlad almost flies down to kill these men, but Mehmed's emissaries sneak into the monastery to capture Vlad's son and injure his wife. The boy Mihai tries to defend them, but Bright Eyes defeats him. As Ingress is taken away, Marina hangs on the edge of the balcony for a life. Vlad flies to them, but the sun rises and Vlad crashes in his landing. Injured from the sunlight and growing desperate to save everything he values, Vlad kills Mihai by drinking his blood. Now becoming a full-on vampire, Vlad summons the clouds to blot out the sun, but in disappointment, Marina lets go of her grip and commits suicide by falling to her death. Vlad tries to save her, but her cross prevents him from catching her. Now enraged, Vlad goes on the attack to take on the entire opposing army. He kills many Turks, but each cut of an enemy's sword makes him lose blood until he nearly bleeds out to where he becomes powerless. After Mehmed decides to leave Vlad to die to be fed upon by the crows, Vlad's advisor Kazan gives some of his blood to Vlad to revive him. He then decides to turn the survivors into his brood of vampires, including the gypsy Shiglim. This brood that's about 24 in number attend Marina's funeral with Vlad. Vlad then leads the attack with the brood to attack the Turkish camp. Kazan was to attack a random Turk, but attacks General Omar in the movie. When Vlad attacks Bright Eyes, they were to have an exchange of words before Vlad breaks his other hand. Bright Eyes was to be torn apart shortly after by a pack of vampires, but was only killed by one single vampire in the movie. Looking for his son, Vlad finds a group of boys that Mehmed captured. Vlad finds his son in the stables with Mehmed, but piles of silver coins are around and it starts to disrupt Vlad's powers. In addition to this moment, Kazan was to be present with seeing this fight happen, and it was also revealed that Brother Lucian told Mehmed of Vlad's weakness to silver out of fear of what Vlad had become. After killing Mehmed and saving his son, Vlad finds out that his brood has killed the kidnapped boys as well. He then opens up the clouds and kills them with sunlight, while also killing himself. The movie ends with Vlad turning into a pile of ash, and the reveal that the gypsy Shiglim survived. The reason why he did not join the attack was because the Turks did not bother his people. In the movie, this man never becomes a vampire and brings Vlad back to life with his blood. So that was how different Dracula Year Zero was from Dracula Untold. On one final note, there was a scene that was cut from the movie that was based on a late draft of the script in which Vlad flirts with his wife in the castle gardens. Not that long ago, Sarah Gadden posted on her Instagram story of some of the scripts throughout the years, and this script, or more so, specifically this scene, was visible. Anyway, please let me know what you thought about Dracula Year Zero, or the movie Dracula Untold. So anyway, this is Tyler from Anchor Reviews, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe.